Finally, Apple made some big AI announcement. So in this video, I want to go through what they actually announced, how they plan to integrate AI into the Apple ecosystem and see whether that can boost the stock going forward, which in recent times has actually taken quite a beating. As you can see right here, when we look at the biggest companies in the US, not so long ago, Apple was actually at the top of the charts, being the most valuable company at the time. However, now they dropped to third because Microsoft and Nvidia, actually, most recently, Nvidia took them over. I wouldn't be surprised if we see soon Nvidia at the top. But yeah, when we look at the top 6 companies over here, all of them, except for Apple, were really heavily going into AI. Obviously, we know that Meta, Facebook, is working on AI for quite a while with their own AI model. Amazon, of course, they have it throughout all their data centers, all the services have their own AI that they're developing. Then we have, of course, Google, for better or for worse, but they're pushing it. It hasn't really worked out too well for them yet, but they really made it a core feature of all their product suites and what have you. Nvidia, of course, fueling the whole AI frenzy with all the AI powering chips. So they've been really benefiting from that. As I said, wouldn't be surprised if we see them surpassing Microsoft very soon. And of course, Microsoft, who is really, I would say, in the lead right now with their stake in OpenAI, which powers ChatGPT. They have a stake in it. They don't own the whole company, but they're really using it throughout their entire ecosystem. So all those companies are really heavily pushing into AI. But Apple, so far, has actually really not announced it once. And even yesterday in their big worldwide developers conference, they haven't specifically mentioned AI. In fact, they gave it their own Apple name. I'll come to this in a second. But for me, in a way, I like it that they don't jump on the hype train like everybody else. But of course, I understand that after a while, some investors might be a little bit worried whether Apple is actually keeping up with the AI developments. Because myself, I'm a big Apple fanboy. I have all the Apple products. But let's be honest, Siri is not exactly the smartest assistant. And in general, they don't really have so many AI features. That's why I also end up using ChatGPT most of the time because it's just so much better. And we'll look at the Apple shares right now at $193. And of course, over the last 10 years, 750% return, really nice, right? But when we look at the year to date, since the beginning of 2024, you're literally flat. The stock hasn't moved anywhere. It dipped quite a bit, sometime in March and April when everybody else was coming out with the new AI products and Apple was just not doing anything about it. And of course, investors punished that right away. Now, recently, they came back a little bit because they have actually partnered with OpenAI. But yeah, honestly, if you invested at the beginning of the year, the stock remained fairly flat. Even over the last year, only grew by 5%. Most of my dividend stocks did better than that, right? So quite unfortunate. But of course, now they're trying to really catch up and develop their own version of AI. Now, full credit, I'm an Apple shareholder myself. I don't own too much. I bought a while ago, so I'm still in the plus. But most of my Apple shareholding comes through my ownership of an S&P 500 ETF. And naturally, since they have a high weighting, I also own more Apple shares through that. Right. So the big announcement is basically that Apple has partnered with OpenAI to bring ChatGPT to Siri, to the iPhone natively. So in a way, I think it's good, right? Because as I said, Siri is really not the smartest assistant. Actually, I only use it to set a timer or play some music, but other than that, it really doesn't do anything. While ChatGPT is obviously in a league of its own, and they've been doing really well. So the partnership was at first, I must say, quite interesting. But given that currently ChatGPT, they're leading the pack in terms of AI, in a way, I could see that as a smart move. Even though, honestly speaking, I thought it was a little bit surprising. As I said, Microsoft does own quite a stake in OpenAI, which is behind ChatGPT. So there must be naturally a little bit of a conflict of interest. So yeah, that was quite interesting for me to see that now they're really giving that edge away to work with OpenAI on that. Now the idea is that you can use it basically on iOS 18, which will come out in fall this year, and on your MacBook basically free of charge, ChatGPT. Plus, of course, paid user, if you're a paid user, you have access to the premium features. But otherwise, you can use ChatGPT free of charge, which you already could, but basically it will be natively baked into your iPhone. Yeah, of course, when you look at the presentation, absolutely sleek. But one thing I was really interested in, how they would call it, because Apple always comes up with some cool names, right? And of course, instead of calling it AI like everybody else, they called it Apple Intelligence. So it's still AI if you want, but it doesn't stand for artificial intelligence, but Apple Intelligence. Even though, they borrow the brain power, so to say, from OpenAI. So in a way, for me, it's very strange and very unusual that they do that, because for me, it's such a fundamental part of the iPhone. That will be the most powerful differentiator to different brands, the AI. but I think at the moment, that's my personal reading, they're just not quite there yet. That's why they partner up. But nonetheless, it looks very sleek when you go through the presentation, all the things you can do. It will really natively baked in. You can create your own images on the fly. It will help you write better, which is really nice. Honestly, right now, many times I'm typing something, even the spell check is so poor. So here with the click of a button, like you would on ChatGPT, you can make it friendly, rewrite it, proofread. So I think that will be really powerful for Apple users, right? Because on Android and other Microsoft devices, you could have done that for a while using Copilot from Microsoft. But on Apple, it just wasn't the case so far. Even things like creating your own emoji on the fly, right? So small gimmicks, but honestly, I think it will make the iPhone experience so much better. And as I said, it will really go through the entire ecosystem. So you can ask it about any correspondence, what a person you wrote with across different apps was saying, and find the information. So really cool. It auto sorts your inbox if you wanted to, your notification even. But at the same time, they still stressed that in terms of privacy is the most private AI. Most of the processing will be done on your device. So I think that's a good thing, not in the cloud. But ultimately, we have to take Apple's word for it. Even in terms of notifications, it knows what might be more relevant for you and then pushes that to the top. So I really feel it's not one big flagship feature, but instead a lot of AI tweaks and things you can do sprinkled across the iPhone experience. So I think it's actually a nice way, rather than one big thing, it's just effortlessly blended into the iPhone experience. So I think a lot of users will actually appreciate that. Again, the writing intelligently through your design without having to open ChatGPT, because right now, most of the time, I have my ChatGPT app open, then write it there, then copy paste it into an app. Here you can do it natively. So I think that's going to be a real differentiator and people really going to use it, right? Because still a lot of people, a little bit reluctant to integrate AI into their everyday life. So I think that will definitely bring it to more people and make it more accessible, which I think is a good thing. You can see really throughout all the various app experiences, iPad as well, of course. I'm sure it will come eventually to the tvOS experience, to the Apple Watch. So really, once Apple does something, they go all in and bring it all across the various devices. Once again, of course, highlighting privacy, which for them is very important. Data is never stored, used only for requests, and verifiable privacy promise. So I'm not sure how the backend it works because they're still using ChatGPT to power all these things. So, I'm not sure where my data is going to end up eventually, but ultimately, again, it's a personal choice, but I feel probably safer with Apple than with some of the other providers out there. So yeah, here they mentioned ChatGPT seamlessly integrated. So they really openly talk about that they're working together with OpenAI to integrate it throughout the iPhone experience. And as they mentioned over here as well, ChatGPT subscribers can connect their accounts to have access to the paid features, which obviously gives you more functionality. Of course, not everybody is happy about it. We can see already Elon Musk came out and said it's an unacceptable security violation. If they will integrate it into the iPhone, into the iOS, he will make sure all his employees will be banned from using Apple devices. Of course, he has his own, AI company that he's working on. And I think he's not on the best of terms with OpenAI, a company that he himself was a founder of in the beginning. Obviously now they're leading the pack. So I think he sees that a little bit as a conflict of interest. So I think, some people might be pushed away from this. But then again, I think what's the alternative, right? Then you have to go with Microsoft, which is powered by OpenAI as well, of course. And then otherwise, he has to start developing his own devices. So yeah, I'm not sure where he's going to diversify to, but let's be real. There's no going back anymore, right? Nobody in the future wants to have a device without AI. The AI becomes the differentiating factor, right? So while I'm really happy to see Apple embracing AI, or Apple Intelligence, how they call it, it's great that they finally catch up and come up with their own suite of tools. I am a little bit surprised, to be honest, that they don't have their native solution, right? Because they worked on it so long, I was really hoping that they would come out with their own alternative and the answer to Google Gemini or OpenAI, ChatGPT or Perplexity, a few of the big models out there that they're now basically living on borrowed land, on OpenAI land, so to say. And honestly, I'm a bit worried, right? It was the same when cars came out and some tried to come up with their own operating system in the car, but a lot of them just gave it away to Apple CarPlay or Android CarPlay, right? And then all of a sudden, those phone manufacturers took over the car experience. And the same will happen in other places as well. So I'm a little bit worried if they now start giving away that advantage of AI, which is, as I said, a real differentiator in the future. And ultimately, they might be falling behind because the AI is going to be even more powerful than just the chips. Chips, everybody will have good chips in the future. Hardware of phones, they're going to be more or less similar, right? In many ways, you see already the cameras of Android phones catching up to iPhones, etc. So I think there will be more and more similarities in the future. But what will be the differentiating factor is what kind of AI you're going to be having. Is it smart and better than the other one? That they work together with sort of Microsoft product? For me, it's a little bit surprising, and I would really hope that this is a temporary fix, because otherwise, I'm really not sure how they're planning to surpass Microsoft in the future. Because honestly, they're gonna be leveraging some of their technology, right? Their software, which is OpenAI in a way. They're not full shareholders, as I said, but they will be living on borrowed land. And honestly, that's not the smartest move. So I hope that this is really just a temporary solution and eventually they're going to come up with their own version of their own AI natively baked in. And well, I'm not the only one who's a little bit disappointed. You can see, the momentum since they came out, not really impressive the last 5 days. Well, it came out yesterday, so it actually dropped by 2%. You have to look at the long-term road ahead. But overall, I was hoping that investors would really embrace it and be happy about it and see a price increase because of the, enthusiasm that Apple finally caught up to the AI game. But in fact, it seems to confirm what was my feeling, that actually they're a little bit worried that, again, living on borrowed land, using other people's technology may not be the smartest move. So hopefully long-term, they will come up with their own solution, because otherwise I don't see how they're going to come out of this, right? Eventually, hardware will be a commodity in many ways and software and AI is going to be the differentiating factors. So yes, I really hope they come out of this to come back to these high returns. But I'm interested to hear from you. What do you think about Apple? Do you think it's a smart move to work together with OpenAI on this? Or do you think it's a missed opportunity? Let me know down in the comments below. I get back to every single one of you. Next up, check out this video over here. As always, thanks a lot for watching. Stay healthy, get wealthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.